Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, the number one source for news, analysis, and discussion on the Detroit Red Wings, the NHL, and all things hockey. Here are your hosts, Ryan Hanna, Brad Crisco, and Evan Lopsinger.
We honestly need a warning light or something to put in the studio for when we're recording this early in the morning. Because like I mentioned last episode with Max, that was remote. The episode prior, we also did early morning and the listeners heard and saw it immediately.
We didn't do our pillow check,
Yeah.
but the pillow is good.
The pillow's the right side up today.
The pillow could be the warning when it's upside down. We are in distress.
Yeah, it's a silent distress signal.
I've been Morse coding torture with my eyes for 10 years. No one's picked up.
We have like 3 people who know Morse code who watch. They just don't care about you.
They don't watch it on YouTube.
You can't even speak English. You can speak Morse code?
No.
Whenever we get into the summer, what we do in the Winged Wheel podcast is our off season. We still record once a week. Like we're here with you year round, but we do go down to 1 a week from the 2 a week at some point. We don't have like a preset date because of the news is the news, right? And we're like, well, when do we do it? It always just kind of comes to us. Yeah, we think it's there.
When we were looking for ideas and talking about Ryan Reaves getting traded was the core concept, that's when you know it's right around the corner.
Yeah. When Ryan Reaves is in a bonus overtime conversation and you're actually talking about the serious merits of that trade, with no disrespect to Ryan Reaves, it's time to take your vacation. So starting now, we are going to be going down to 1 episode a week. And the only way we're going to record a midweek up until we come back before the season, training camp for divisional previews, that kind of thing. But the only way we'll record is within emergency episodes. So we had it a couple of years ago with DeBrincat, if I remember correctly.
We did 2 episodes that night.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. That's why that summer felt shorter. So it's up to Steve Yzerman. If you want more Winged Wheel podcast, petition Steve Yzerman. But for now, it's just going to be the weekend episodes. But the Patreon supporters are still going to get a bonus episode after the main episode. And then sometime midweek, we may take the first week as a break, but sometime midweek, they're going to get an additional kind of evergreen bonus episode where we record something completely different than the usual. So, redrafting old drafts. We might do like a fantasy draft of all-time Red Wings, debating the salary cap, talking about whether Marc-Andre Fleury is actually a Hall of Fame goalie.
Is Leon Draisaitl a top 10 player in the NHL?
Top 10. We're at 10 now, Evan.
Well, maybe we'll move to 15 or 20 soon.
Oh my
Who knows?
God. Yeah, so those are fun, as you can tell. Anyhow, folks, welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. It's the start of the offseason. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, we are going to be waiting for caffeine to hit our veins and then talking about a continued conversation from the last couple episodes, which is, does Detroit have enough in their roster and their system to be a playoff team this year? Plain and simple, but we're going to break it down almost player by player. We're going to get into some NHL news and more before overtime very quickly. This show is primarily supported by our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/Winged Wheel Podcast. If you want to support the show, the bonus episodes that I just mentioned off the main show and the off-season content, the Patreon exclusive Discord, and you're automatically entered into all of our giveaways. We have a lot of fun stuff coming. So again, patreon.com/Winged Wheel Podcast. Are the Red Wings a playoff team as they're constructed right now? And you can use any definition of playoffs that you want. You can say guaranteed to make it. You can say, I think they'll sneak in with 93 points. You can say, they're kind of the Minnesota Wild. Yes or no, are they?
Not unless a lot of things go right. I would say unlikely at this point.
Well, it was a yes or no question, Brad.
Then that's a no.
Wow, okay. Wow.
How does it, see how ridiculous that sounds when you give someone a simple question and they just start to...
It sounds like something I would do.
Yeah.
Let me see how many words I can fit into this small idea I have.
Desperately fighting the urge to not bring up Marc-Andre Fleury within the first 10 minutes of the show.
We could, but if you're asking me as well, simply, I also think no. And I don't know if that's so much an indictment on the Red Wings themselves, but look at the division as well, right? there's a lot of strong teams, and there's a bunch of teams that they're in a horse race with for, wild card spot or divisional seeds. So the Red Wings are improving incrementally, but it feels like the teams around them are doing it at a slightly faster pace.
I think everyone is about at that understanding, right? Like, you either think that the Red Wings are a playoff team, but not like likely to be a divisional seed. You're talking 93, 94 points kind of thing, which might be generous, or you think they're going to be, an 81 to 86 point team in and around there. Like, at best, you're on the fringes, and at worst, you're just below the fringes on the other side. But as Brad said, I don't think anyone can deny that if everything goes right, you can see the case for it, because Detroit's been there for 3 years now, and they did get better incrementally in some areas and massively, potentially, in one area in net. So riffing off of what Max Bultman wrote from the Athletic Detroit, and Max, obviously a Windwheel podcast contributor, I'll link that article. Why don't we go down to the different areas where if Detroit has enough improvement in there to make that difference in the end? I think the big glaring one that is going to be the biggest needle mover if it comes to fruition is in net, which is John Gibson. Acquiring John Gibson is Yzerman's latest attempt to have a true solution in net, a number one goalie. The net-minding position has bothered Steve Yzerman since he got to Detroit in 2019, and he's been tinkering with it ever since. And rightly so, because they haven't stuck with anything. Ever since Jimmy Howard fell off his prime and Jonathan Bernier, what a martyr, really, for what he did for the Red Wings. That was like, we didn't know how, we thought that that's what, in between number one goalies was going to be like, just a bunch of Jonathan Berniers. That was not the case. We would have killed for Jonathan Bernier over the last few years. But ever since then, like, the Red Wings haven't had a solution. So is John Gibson enough to bring back enough standing points in a playoff push?
Theoretically, yeah. His ceiling is the highest of any goalie they've had since generously prime Jimmy Howard.
That's generous too.
Yeah. But he comes with the huge caveat that, are you getting a full season out of him? Because it doesn't happen often. When he plays, he's usually really, really good. He had a huge year in Anaheim last year, but he only played 30-ish games. Now, mind you, some of that was injury. Some of that was Dostal took him over the net, and he's younger, goalie of the future, so it all makes sense. But a .912 save percentage in the NHL these days is significant. And if the Red Wings can get 40 to 50 games of a .912 out of John Gibson, it stands to reason that a lot of those meltdown games we've seen from Red Wings goalies over the past few years didn't happen with him, which probably flips at least a few losses to wins. Talbot's still going to have to be a good backup, but it's the biggest wild card of the entire season for the Red Wings. If they can get 82 games of mostly good goaltending, it does change this team, because they haven't got that in a long time. They've had stretches where their goalies were incredible. It happened many times last year. But there's months, not games, not weeks, months where the goaltending just isn't there for them. We've seen it. It feels like every December and March, but it happens every year. And if Gibson can stay healthy, stay consistent, do what he did last year, it really does dramatically change the Red Wings' outlook.
A .912 was league average save percentage in 2017, 2018. Last season, according to Hockey Reference, it was a .900 save percentage. That is a massive drop. So if Gibson puts up a .912 in a starting role for the Red Wings, I am quite bullish on throwing down some money on long odds for them as a playoff team. If he puts up a .908, a .906, just like, even if you do nothing remarkable, but you're steady, you're not close to prime John Gibson, but you're, like Brad said, the floor isn't falling out from beneath you as You're playing in games where the Red Wings are otherwise doing enough to hang in there. Part of me wonders if we have so many conversations over the last few seasons about the Red Wings' resilience and how quickly the team crumbles because something puts them out of the game early on. And I'm not sitting here saying it's the goalie every time. Like, the team has failed themselves quite a bit, the players in front of the goalie. But there have been games, I think just as many as the defense failing the Red Wings over the last few seasons where, yeah, after the first half of the season, the likelihood that the goalies are just going to completely fall apart skyrockets. And it's wear and tear, attrition. They haven't had a guy who can handle a starting workload really since maybe Bernier. So if he can come in and just be decent, doesn't need to be 9-12, 9-15, Vezina candidate, just decent, that will bring the Red Wings into play. What we're describing now would have been enough in, 2 of the last 3 seasons? Probably. I see the formula there, and that's why Steve Yzerman had such a big focus on the goalie position. It's what had us scared, because when you have such a laser focus, it's still not a guarantee, because you have guys like, and he's a great player, but who could have predicted Dostal would have taken the net like he did, right? If you could have, teams would have worked harder to acquire him or whatever it is. But when you're so laser focused on such a tenuous position, you can potentially overspend or do something reckless. Yzerman didn't. He got John Gibson at a great price, a great acquisition cost. And so ultimately it worked out. And yeah, if you can move the needle this much with one move, you understand why you're so fixated on it.
Yeah, and it, begs the question, all the other teams who are looking for goalies, why were they not all over it? Like, why were they not getting involved? Specifically the Oilers, but I would say the Red Wings made out like bandits in terms of the goalie market / free agency come July 1. So that's a big win for Detroit over the other teams in their division. They improved where they needed to dramatically. And let's not forget, like, John Gibson, like you guys said, is still a good goalie. This wasn't a trade because Anaheim has a depreciated asset that's just not good anymore. It was John Gibson had been asking for a trade or trying to find a suitable place to go for years now. The relationship there has been tenuous at best from the sounds of it. So the Red Wings are getting a guy who still wants to compete, still wants to play. So it's a good move. And yeah, it hits a positional. The Red Wings have lots of positional needs, but
Hockey player.
Goalies play most of the time, the whole game, and they're one of the key elements to taking the next step.
The way I see this is if Gibson is underwhelming or he's, behind the negative filter of, hey, you're playing behind the Detroit Red Wings defense, so every goalie is going to seem worse here compared to where they came from, or, he can't get over his health issues and he continues to get injured. I see this worst case scenario as, well, that's just what the Red Wings have had for the last few years, right? Like, okay, then you're on Cam Talbot with spotty starts here and there from Gibson, or, maybe you call up Cossa or Postava or whatever it is, you sign a journeyman. Yeah, that would suck. But I don't see that as the floor falling out from the Red Wings as we've known them from the last years. I think that would just be more of what the Red Wings have had in reality. A little bit less of the flair of like early season Alex Lyon maybe, but ultimately that's not too big of a difference. So might just be the summer optimism in me, but it stands to reason that Detroit only benefits to gain. It's not a guarantee that they're going to gain, but they only stand to gain from this if it comes through that way. That's the obvious answer, and that's going to be like the biggest potential swing that we're talking about. I think maybe let's move from the net out. Let's talk about defense, and 3 players come to mind more than others. Very obviously, Mo Seider, Simon Edvinsson, Albert Johansson. There's other players in there that we'll mention as well, but how can those 3 improve in their year-over-year development, and could it make enough of a difference where the defense, even though on paper doesn't look terribly different, could play different on the ice?
Not that it's impossible. It's hard to expect more from Mo Seider at this point, just because he's been asked to carry such a big load for years, and he's done a really, really great job with it. And unfortunately, the way the roster looks, it looks like he's Not that Ben Chiarot's bad, but he's not going to get any more help across from him on the blue line when he's on the ice. So the way he gets better is by hopefully getting a reduced role. And not to say he's not a first pair guy. He's going to be their first pair right D forever. But if Edvinsson and Johansson can take a step, they were a decent to good second pair last year, especially Edvinsson. He's an upper tier defenseman. So theoretically, if they both get better and take a step in their development, maybe they can absorb some of the matchups every once in a while and take the heat off Mo Seider. Edvinsson specifically certainly has the tools to do it. He certainly has the skill set to do it. And from all accounts, certainly has the mindset to do it. Would I still trust Mo Seider up against Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews more than Edvinsson Johansson? Yes. But home road splits, sometimes you don't get the choice. Matchups matter a lot, and there's 41 games a year the Red Wings are not going to get the matchups they want. So if Edvinsson and Johansson can win those minutes, and I don't even necessarily think Edvinsson and Johansson need to produce more offensively because, Edvinsson had 30-something even strength points last year. Very underrated in that aspect, so I think he's good there. I just think those three specifically, and I'll factor in Chiarot as well because he's going to be playing on that top pair, can't get worn down because we've seen that happen. You can visibly see the exhaustion out of these guys at points because that third pair is a black hole and they can't be trusted to do anything. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's true. And JBD looks like an improvement, but I don't think he changes that dynamic. I hope I'm wrong. If he's wrong, that's game-changing for the entire T group, but it's not likely. So I just think, I don't know, it's really hard to put into words just the balancing on the blue line really needs to be a focus this year because that's probably the best way to maximize it. However, I'm not sure that's possible as constructed.
To put it plainly, like you said, Brad, there was no solution that was found yet. And Yzerman has taken care to say yet. It could happen before the season starts. It could happen by December. But there's no solution to be found so far for the Red Wings on the top pair. Ben Chiarot is still your first pair defenseman. Again, not an indictment on Ben Chiarot. It's not his fault. He's just literally the next best option in lieu of someone to actually play there, or to someone play reliable second pair minutes with Johansson to move Edvinsson up. That's just not the luxury that the Red Wings have so far. I'll start with Seider. I'm going to sound like a broken record. You can probably find me saying the same thing for the past 2 off seasons at least, if not more. I think there is more to Mo Seider's game. I think he is just being asked to play an unholy amount of tough, wet blanket anchor minutes as a young defenseman, even though you're a top pair defenseman, and that's what you want him to be doing, because it means he's a great defenseman. That's all true. It's coming without even the small treats once in a while of like, hey, here's a favorable zone starter. Hey, here's a moment where the Red Wings are on the attack, or we need you to go out there and impact the game positively rather than just keep us alive because we're getting hemmed in, or we need to stave off this line matchup, which is substantially better than our forwards, right? There was a little reprieve last year. Keeping Edvinsson on the second pair did help a little bit, like Brad mentioned, but I still think there's more to be had with Mo Seider's game. And I think Red Wings fans will be surprised if and when the Red Wings figure out their defense, how Mo Seider might take a bigger step than would be expected at his age when that happens. Is that this year? It's going to depend on the next couple of guys at least. Starting with Edvinsson, this is the one anyone can be most confident in. Last year was effectively his rookie season, and I think this year, he was great all year. Was he perfect? No, but for a rookie defenseman, fantastic. Couldn't really ask for more. You saw the steps that Mo Seider took after his first offseason. I know the points regressed and sometimes situations got worse, but once you look at the context of it, he did get substantially more able as an NHL defenseman. I'm expecting the same thing from Simon Edvinsson. You find a way to get those two in the first pair. My God, that's fantastic. But if he stays on the second pair, then that only could get better. Albert Johansson is the one I'm zeroing in on right now because, and Max noted this in his article, the biggest drawback to Albert Johansson on the second pair wasn't his performance or the way he was thinking the game or moving around the ice. It was just those are hard minutes, and he's not a big guy. But now that he's played that, he understands the kind of like war and attrition there is on your body as a defenseman in those situations, because this is a Florida Panthers league right now, and defensemen get punished going back to retrieve pucks or trying to defend in their own zone. If you build your body and your strength and your frame up in such a way to prepare for that, he should be able to handle it better this year, and it shouldn't be such a grind or wear him down as the season goes on. And then maybe you don't have questions about him as a bolt-on, absolutely everyday top four defender.
Albert is really a jack of all trades, master of none, which is great. Like, he's the type of guy you want to plug and play into your D-core and really solidifies the back end. I think if he can take a step forward and add some muscle, like, because he's not getting taller, it'll really
no hope for us, Brad.
It'll really help him out, and it'll help out Edvinsson. It'll take the load off him. It'll help take the load off Seider, because then the second pairing can play more minutes and take a few more of the matchups. Like, those three guys, Edvinsson, Seider, Johansson, are the core to this D group this year. Everybody else doesn't matter. If you get some value out of them, that's fantastic. But we're not really looking at the other four guys and being like, if they do this or that, like, the D core is going to be better. It's like, these three guys are the key pillars to this D core. If they can continue to do what they're doing and take incremental steps this season, the D core will be better, or it will be what it is. Very curious to see if Johansson has a sophomore slump this year. He got thrust into a role last year that most people weren't expecting, probably him as well. So he had to play a lot of minutes in his first full season, and you take a lot of abuse back there. We'll see what he's got. It'll be very interesting to see how his season plays out.
If you see an improved Johansson, it will also be enough to inspire you to try Johansson Chiarot again, right? In some capacity. Because if you can get Seider, Edvinsson on the top pair, you want to be doing that as a hockey team. And again, this whole episode is if all these things go right. But if you see an improved Johansson, you try that again, and if you can make something stick, then that is another kind of way the chessboard can play out, and it can unlock, without adding a lot of net new players, new aspects to the Red Wings defense. One point I disagree with Evan on is you don't really care about the other guys. I don't think you're wrong in that it's probably not going to be a big needle moving effect, but there's two tiny things that I'm looking at that could potentially...
I'm looking at two tiny things right now.
Yeah. You looking down? I teed you up for that. Bernard Docker and Gustafsson. If the title of this episode should just be if Bernard Docker can come in and be, I don't want to say as advertised, but as you hope on that third pair, just a steady guy, eats decent minutes, blocks shots, you don't notice him. Anything else is a cherry on top. Great. Flips Gustafsson to the left side. And if Gustafsson can have kind of a fair or not Ben Chiarot-esque second season with the Red Wings, where you're like, okay, this wasn't as bad as the first season, and you're now starting to settle and fit into the framework a little more, and maybe who you're playing with or where you're playing allows you to just settle into your game a little bit better. All right, a third pair doesn't seem so crazy as one that isn't, as you described, Brad, a black hole, right? Is that going to strike fear into the hearts of the opponents? Probably not. But that could be a small tweak in the lineup where, again, if it plays out as you hope, it still is an incremental improvement where you're bringing the floor up, which was Gustafsson, who had a bad year. And then on the right side, third pair, you're going from, Hall to Bernard Docker.
The bar is so low.
Yeah, but it's been like this for a while.
there's a chance they might actually clear it. Gustafsson is and always has been a good puck mover. He should be able to run the second power play the games he's in. He just couldn't defend his way out of a wet paper bag. And if he is, I'm not even going to say competent. If he is not a train wreck defensively, that's still a step in the right direction. He did look a little better under McLellan, but it still wasn't good. Puck on his stick, I trust him to be able to make a good first pass. I trust him to be able to make something happen in the offensive zone. But when that puck's off his stick, he's still figuring some things out.
Who among us,
Right? Jacob Bernard-Docker, again, I don't know what to expect of him because he's like Johansson in the sense that there's no trait there that makes you really excited. It's just, can he be steady? Can he be, as Evan referred to Johansson, jack of all trades, master of none? Make a decent first pass, have some decent positioning, have some decent gap control. Don't turn everything in your own end into a fire drill. It does change the dynamic because if, the Seider pair is going to play 22 to 25 minutes, the Edvinsson pair is going to play 22 to 25 minutes. That means there's 10 to 15 minutes this pair still needs to be out there and not blowing the game. And I mean, not to pile on the same guy over and over again, I can't envision JBD not being an upgrade from Justin Hall, just on the fact that I know JBD can at least make a decent breakout pass, which is not something that Justin Hall can do. And one of the simplest ways to fix your defense is spend less time in the defensive zone. And that has been the Red Wings' biggest problem on defense for a long time, because the longer you spend in the D zone, the more the bad positioning gets exposed, the more bad gap control gets exposed, the more the fire drills are allowed to come out. If each defensive zone pressure can yield a turnover followed by a clean exit, you're okay. And I don't think I trust Gustafsson or JBD to play a strong physical game. I don't think I trust them to be able to defend the cycle super effectively. But I do trust both of them with the puck on their stick to be able to make a competent breakout pass. So again, when the puck's in the zone, I'm not expecting a world of difference from what we saw last year. So my hope, and I will say almost my expectation of those two, okay, spend less time there then. That's the solution. Just be bad at it, but just do it less. So, and I know that's overly simplistic, but I really do think that is their path to success given their physical stature and their defensive limitations.
The other players that could come into play here are, if either Woolander or Booyam make noise and make this team, I think there is a small chance that Axel Sandin Pellikka, makes some noise at camp. We've seen surprises before. His ceiling is still probably the highest out of any Red Wings prospect, but he just needs time to adjust. He doesn't come with the kind of frame that means you can jump in and paper over a lot of the warts that every single NHL rookie will ever have, as long as this game exists how it does. It's not anything to be concerned about with him. It's just normal. Like, you expect him to need more time, and based on limited viewing so far in North America, yeah, it looks like he needs just some more time in Grand Rapids. By some more time, I mean like any full time in Grand Rapids, which he hasn't had yet, really. So, barring a miracle there, those are the six guys that you're probably talking about. Justin Hall's spot filling, injury, whatever. I still am like joking, not joking about just spam the waiver wire. If your third pair isn't working and you're all out of ideas and you can only shuffle, deck chairs on the Titanic so much, spam the waiver wire. Try to Gustav Forsling this thing. Yeah, maybe the Florida Panthers have a really shrewd pro scouting team, and that's how they were able to identify that one. But just pick up whoever seems remotely viable and see what sticks in your system. Barring that, that's going to have to be the area where Steve Yzerman likely has to make a move to add to this team via trade, because we're going to talk in a little bit about the forwards. The defense are the ones where you're talking about the most minute adjustments all aligning in the perfect way to send this thing upwards, and just the probability of everything going right is low. It would be a hell of a shot in the arm to just add one piece. You'd love to. You'd love a right shot defenseman day in, day out, and a top pair lefty. That'd be phenomenal. But just one would be such a shot in the arm. All right, forwards up next, but first we're going to take a quick break to hear from the sponsors of the Winged Wheel podcast. Back after this. As we roll into the off-season, let's be honest, staying on top of healthy eating is way easier said than done. Between road trips, long days, late-night recordings, and making sense of wild trade rumors, it's easy to reach for junk. But Tempo makes it simple for us to stay on track. Their meals are legit, quick, single-serving, and actually taste like real food. The tomato Asiago chicken, unreal. The apricot glazed chicken and rice, better than what we've paid triple for at restaurants. And the best part is they're ready in just 3 minutes, so you can whip one up quicker than it takes for the puck to drop on a national broadcast game. Each week, you get access to 20-plus rotating meals, all crafted with actual ingredients you can recognize. It's a no-brainer when your day's packed and you still want to eat something decent without committing to cooking or cleaning. Whether you're dialing in your nutrition or just trying to avoid eating cereal for dinner again, Tempo gives you fuel without the fuss. For a limited time, Tempo is offering our listeners 60% off your first box. Go to tempomeals.com/wingedwheel. That's tempomeals.com/wingedwheel for 60% off your first box. tempomeals.com/wingedwheel. Rules and restrictions may apply. All right, that was the defense. The forwards. Where can the Detroit Red Wings improve the most in the kind of way that's going to make you think, yeah, this forward group is going to not be amazing at 5-on-5 scoring, but maybe not be as woeful at 5-on-5 scoring as they were last year? Where can they improve? Where you think they're going to, fill in the gaps that they had? Obviously, the power play is phenomenal, so you hope that they can at least maintain most of that. Power plays are finicky, and it's hard to keep that pace year over year. Even the Oilers struggle to do that. But where's the internal improvement for the Red Wings up front?
Well, the area of biggest opportunity is the bottom six. Now, just because that's the area for biggest growth doesn't mean there's going to be any growth this year. For the sake of this conversation, I'll assume James Van Riemsdyk's playing in the bottom six. Someone's got to go up to that first line. I don't know who it's going to be, but I'll assume, let's say it's Soderblom for the sake of this conversation.
It's you, the listener.
Congratulations. It's actually going to be like a Make-A-Wish thing where every game someone new gets a chance.
Yeah, it's the Red Wings of the Make-A-Wish kid. We wish for a top pair left winger.
I think there's a chance that this bottom six could provide a bit more depth scoring. But I think even best case scenario, it's not going to be a lot. JVR, though an upgrade, only scored 15 or 16 goals last year, and he is, closer to 40 than he is 30. So you got to keep expectations within reason there. Mason Appleton's a great energy guy, going to be a great third line winger and play the role they need him to play. But again, he's not a big scorer. Berggren, we hope, pray that he finally is a 40-point guy, but he's not that young. Like, he's not a 20-year-old where you can expect a huge bump in him.
It's his birthday in 3 days. Turns 25.
Oh,
happy early birthday, Jonatan.
Yeah, but again, he's going to be 25. So how much improvement can we really expect at this point in his career? Again, there's reason to believe it's better. I do think it's better. I do think there'll be more depth scoring, but we're talking inches, not miles, which is something. Again, whenever you can upgrade, you always upgrade. So I'm not going to complain over any upgrades. But are those inches going to be enough to make up for the black hole on the top line?
Just a lot of phrasing this episode. Yep. Okay.
I can't actually find the one there. But either way, other than the word,
you can't.
Yeah. Other than the word inches.
I owe it to you to step in here. I'm sorry, Brad. I've just derailed you there. I agree with you that there's no simple answer at forward. And we'll talk about the big names and Raymond and Larkin and DeBrincat and all that in a minute. But I do think a couple things could reasonably be true here. Not guaranteed to be, but reasonably. One, the bottom six shouldn't have been that bad at 5-on-5 scoring. Bad? Sure. Yeah. I mean, you were talking about it all last offseason. Like, hey, this is not a team that's poised to score a lot. What are we going to do about scoring? And everyone was riding the high of the previous year's high scoring season. So they were like, shut up, Brad, as we are wont to do. But it did turn out to be that the team struggled to score at depth. But I don't think they were that bad, right? Like, as much as the season prior was a very efficient scoring season that was always going to regress the mean, I don't know. You can make the case that the 5-on-5 scoring should have been a little bit better than it was. And if you just go out and run the exact same lines, the exact same setups, you're not really going to find success in the modern NHL. But if you do things to just tweak the configuration kind of on a larger scale relative to what I was talking about with the defense, then maybe you can find something. You know, Appleton's not a scorer, but if he's the kind of reliable energy guy that can make sure the ice isn't so tilted against you as heavily, that's a step in your favor. Okay, Kasper is a bolt-on 2C if you want him to be. That means you can move Andrew Copp to potentially one of the top 6 wing spots, or he's centering a third line. That's a step in your favor. JT Compher had a good first season for the Red Wings and a bad second season for the Red Wings. He takes a little bit of a step back forward and, regresses to the mean positively. That's a step forward. Soderblom and Berggren, I think people probably have a little bit more optimism for Soderblom than Berggren, but you're going to find a lot of optimism from the Red Wings fan base for both of those guys. Seeing how they can stick over another full season could be a step forward. Like, I can see the vision here, and it all kind of stems from 2 players, and that's Kasper and Copp. You make the second line center position stick confidently, and the other guy can either spot fill on the top line wing or move down and improve the depth lines, centering one of those lines. You're not going to be world beaters. You're certainly not going to be like the glory days Tampa Bay Lightning or current Florida Panthers third and fourth lines, but you become a lot more viable, and it's not just an instant, hey, you're getting caved while this line is on the ice kind of thing. Then you have opportunities to score. So you need a lot of factors to come into play here, and you're banking on a lot of health, and you're banking on Soderblom and Berggren to continue to be effective depth, but I can see how it wouldn't be atrocious again.
You guys have talked about the depth. I'll mention the upper end of the forward group. There's 5 guys who should play in the top 6 every single night. And where's the room for growth with them? Obviously, Marco Kasper was on a rocket ship to the moon last year. A very pleasant surprise. Let's see if he can sort of buck the sophomore slump. He's got 2 great line mates in Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat. That line should remain as is unless the floor just falls out from underneath them. Father Time catches up to Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat just goes ice cold. That line, keep that line as is. The top line left wing, that's going to be by committee, I think. You need Dylan Larkin to remain healthy for the whole season. There were certainly times down the stretch, the final a lot of games in the calendar year where there was clearly something wrong. You need the Dylan Larkin we all know for the entirety of the season.
And it's an Olympic year, so he's going to run into the same thing again.
And hopefully he's taken lessons from that. Maybe playing for the United States this year and seeing how his NHL season kind of went after that. There's lots of takeaways there. Lucas Raymond, he's been on a rocket ship to the moon as well. Is there still more that we can untap without a bolt-on certified first line left winger? Maybe not right now, but if it's going to come from within, I think he's one of your key candidates as well. If you think he's what part of the core, part of the future, he's one of the guys who has to continue to improve. After that, maybe Soderblom's got more in the tank. He really moved himself back up the depth chart last year and earned himself a contract. Is there something more there? Whether that's providing some consistency in the bottom six or spot filling on the top line and chipping in and not looking out of place. Todd McLellan's got to figure out what to do with Jonatan Berggren. Is he a third line winger who chips in 15 goals, or can he find some consistency in the top six on that first line? And we've seen when he plays with those lines, he can finish. He looks like a guy who can score, but how long does that last? I truly think they need to find a permanent role for him, or we've had this conversation, feels like 7 times, or it's probably time for a divorce. I don't hate the Red Wings forward group this year. I just have lots of questions. What are we doing at certain positions? I see sort of the incremental improvement or the theory behind the additions to improve depth scoring. It's just really, will it happen, and who's going to seize that sort of top line position?
I think one of the big differences is Appleton specifically, not from a depth scoring standpoint, but from a harder to play against standpoint.
Absolutely.
Which matters because, we've probably been the 3 biggest critics of how soft this team is for a long time now. And Appleton himself doesn't change that, but it helps. And hopefully it's one of those things where, we've always talked about who's going to drag everybody else into the fight. We've actually never had a complaint about the Red Wings top line being soft. Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond drag everybody into everything, whether they want to or not. Larkin.
Kasper's got that dog too. He's got that sandpaper.
Yeah, but they can't be the ones doing that. I don't want to see Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond getting punched in the face, even if they are punching the other guy in the face first. We need them on the ice. We can't have them serving too many penalties, too many offsettings. And, we've seen it before. You throw a punch, you catch the side of a guy's helmet, 4-6, you break your finger. Can't have that happening. So hopefully the bottom 6 can take up that mantle, that role a little more than we've seen in the past. And maybe, I know we'll get to it, but that first line left wing, maybe that comes externally.
Yep.
Not a lot of great left shot forwards out there, but if we're talking right shot forwards, maybe that can play the offside. Pittsburgh. They got a few options available.
One of them's on defense. Honestly,
first line.
1,000.
Joke question, but real question. Is there any player in the Red Wings bottom 6 right now you think would do better on first line left wing than Erik Karlsson?
No. And 1,000 years good fortune to the first team that just admits he's a forward.
That's the stupidest thing I've heard today. Mind you, it's only 8:02 in the morning, but there's still time, but I'm not sure how that's going to get.
But is he wrong?
Yes. You don't think the game the same way from the playing defense as you
He doesn't play defense.
Well, he generates his offense from the back.
Great.
He
Give him a head start.
I think he could adapt.
This is the stupidest. This whole podcast was a mistake.
Bit late, pal.
But in reality, Brian Rust and Rakell are sitting there.
The Rakell price is high right now. And do you know what? I get it from Dubas' standpoint. Keep the price high. There's no reason to sell low. I think he'll want to do something there. It might be a pipe dream. I don't know that he's going to want to wait till the deadline, because if his team is doing reasonably well, unexpectedly well, he's going to panic because he wants McKenna. There's no point to them finishing 12th in the conference. He wants them 16th out of 16.
They got to pick a lane, right? And
yeah.
Not to detract from the Detroit Red Wing conversation we're having, but Sidney Crosby drives a lot of the conversations there. If they're in a playoff spot, they're not selling. Sidney Crosby would not let that happen. And if they do sell, he's going to say, want me to turn back Father Time even more? I'm having 170-point season.
and he could do it. But getting back to the Red Wings, I want to go to one thing that you mentioned, Evan, which was Larkin and Raymond they both struggled after the Four Nations break. Raymond did too. People forget because, one, he was probably the Red Wings MVP up until the Four Nations break, and then he kind of pulled out of his slump earlier than Larkin did after Four Nations. They were both battling stuff, and Larkin definitely got hurt. I mean, this is going to be unfair to Dylan Larkin, who I think takes a lot of undue, kind of targeted anger from the fan base, but he is injured kind of around the same time every year. Dylan Larkin, even if he plays all the games, which is an improvement, he is kind of always battling something. And that's not like, it's hard to say, oh, that's Dylan Larkin's fault and he's not preparing for it. He's playing much like Mo Seider on defense.
Well, if Mo Seider wasn't German, he would probably have to take some time off.
That's right, because we all know about German machine. They never break. That's how that goes, right? But the thing with Larkin is that's still the reality of it. So you're going to come into an Olympic year that's a longer tournament. The States are poised to be a favorite yet again, and you're going to be battling stuff. And so he has to be able to manage that. Lucas Raymond has to be able to manage that, because without those two, those are the Red Wings offense, as we saw, is kaput. It is useless.
And this time it's not in North America. So they've got travel added in that as well. And you're living in the Olympic Village, which brings all its own issues with the cardboard beds and whatnot. Like, it's a whole different lifestyle change for the 2-3 weeks, however long the NHL guys are there. So this might even be an issue for Seider and Edvinsson as well, right? Like, the Red Wings have some representatives at very key spots, and if any of those guys experience issues, there's nobody backing them up in Detroit.
The only saving grace on that point for the Red Wings is all the teams ahead of them probably have more Olympians because they're better teams.
Yeah, but they have better depth, right?
See, that's fair. That's very fair. But the war of attrition at the top of the lineup might actually impact the other teams more.
But that's the point I was going to make. That's true, but at the same time, what have we been saying about the Red Wings for 2 years? Okay, you can see how this roster can win and potentially be like a 92, 93-point team on a good season, but they are one key injury away from having to make some tough decisions at the deadline because Gavin McKenna is more in sight than the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I think the Red Wings are probably 2 injuries away, but if one of them is, God forbid, Larkin or Seider or Raymond, you either call in the cavalry and go get help, or that the season's done, right? So, I mean, this is supposed to be how can the Red Wings improve internally and not how can things go wrong. But they can improve internally by not having that fall off. And even aside from the injury, sorry to go back to it, but part of that whole postseason press conference disagreement between Larkin, Yzerman, the team, the management on mentality is the team fell apart because they just didn't get the help. And not to relitigate the whole thing, you understand where the team was coming from because this is not a roster that's constructed to compete for a playoff spot happily, but at the same time, you can't have that mentality. So I'm hopeful that a full season of Todd McLellan under the helm, a full offseason of Todd McLellan's systems and plans, and just him being the coach in the room helps shake whatever it was that ailed the Red Wings and drag them down into that kind of loser thinking, whatever you want to call it. That might be harsh, but just like the defeatist, oh, things are going bad, so it can't turn up attitude. It's an 82-game season. It's way too long of a season. You see teams win games and go on streaks after they've been down and out. The Red Wings won 7 times in a row twice last year, and before both times, we had thoughts, this team is down and out based on how they're playing. There is not a team in the league that can't go on a run in the modern NHL. So you stay healthy, you prepare physically for a season that's only going to get longer pretty soon here, another 2 games added on, and you just have a dog mentality. That's improvement.
Yeah, Todd McLellan probably is the area of greatest improvement internally.
Yeah.
Because they're changing the mentality. You could tell under Lalonde when things were falling apart, everybody was looking for the guy who was doing it or who was gonna come in and save the day. And I think
he was looking around too.
And I mean everyone. I mean every single person. And I think with Todd McLellan there now, it's gonna be it'll be more of stop crying, stop feeling sorry for yourselves. Let's get back out there and get back to what we know we can do.
Another point here is if anyone makes the team, right? If Carter Mazur has improved physically and prepared physically the way it's kind of rumored he might have over the offseason coming off of his injury, that unfortunate elbow injury, like right into his NHL debut there, that could be a big help. You add Marco Kasper light in terms of just someone who has that dog mentality, that's huge. Nate Danielson comes in and has, I mean, everyone is being measured against Marco Kasper right now, fair or not. But if Nate Danielson has a Marco Kasper light season where it's, hey, you're productive, you can be a middle six bolt-on player, whether center right away or they start you at wing, it doesn't matter. That changes the formula massively. And there could be other surprises in there as well. I think Michael Brandzik-Nygaard is a player who is potentially closer than people might think he is. It all depends on how camp goes, but that's like any one of those guys injected into this lineup. It makes the coach and the general manager have to make decisions first off, but that's a good thing. So that could be an area where you can look at as well.
There's always a chance. We mentioned last episode, the Red Wings only have, and if we're looking at forwards specifically here, 12 NHL forwards under contract. Most teams will carry 14 forwards, 7D, 2 goalies. Red Wings can go 13, 8, and 2. It's possible. There are spots available. And I'm not saying, as it stands right now, Mazur, Danielson, any of those guys look like they can be game changers right now. But that's not what the Red Wings necessarily need them to be. Odds dictate, looking around the league and looking at Red Wings history, one of these guys is going to surprise us in camp. Not necessarily come in and kick the door in like Lucas Raymond did. But, oh, this guy's clearly ready. We got to play him. If that's Carter Mazur on the third or fourth line. If that's Nate Danielson as, a third line center. Whatever. But they don't need to be 50% better than the guy they're replacing. They just need to be 5% better than the guy they're replacing. If Nate Danielson can come in and do exactly what JT Compher did last year with 5 more points and a little more stuff per 60, that's an incremental improvement. Baby steps. Upgrades are always positive, even if it's just minimal. Because that was, our point of Red Wings free agency. Appleton, JVR, Bernard Docker are not needle movers. But they are definitively better than the guys they're replacing. Or at least where they're replacing them in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
They are undeniably better. John Gibson, theoretically, is a big upgrade. Once again, theoretically, if Danielson or Mazur or MBN comes in and makes the team, theoretically, that's an improvement. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. So, again, if we're looking at the optimistic view of this, they need to make up 5 to 10 points in the standings to make the playoffs. If JBD gets you 1, if John Gibson gets you 2.
John Gibson, if he's, could be way more than 2, putting that out
If
there.
JVR gets you 1, if Appleton gets you 1, if Danielson gets you 1, if Mazur gets you 1, that's 6, 7, 8 points right there without anybody being a world beater.
I got 13. It's a tough morning.
Yeah, but that's because the thing is, we all have high expectations of the prospects in the Red Wings system. I know I do. The whole rebuild banks on them. There's no reality the Red Wings are contenders unless Danielson, MBN, Sandin Pellikka are great players. But in their rookie year, they don't need to be that guy. They don't need to do what Marco Kasper did. They just need to be better than the guy they're replacing. That's the benchmark.
All of this as well is without something happening. If this team is good enough again around the trade deadline where you're like, there's no way this team was ever going to be a McKenna team. Look how good they are just with their core players, but they just need a little bit more boost. Every year I'm more and more like this, and that's true this year as well. I'm all for Steve Yzerman going in and finding a boost. Whether it's on forward to find like a big splash, there's someone available, you can get someone, or even just like a decent splash, like a Rakell type. If it's on defense, because you know what? they need the help now, but they also have a bunch of contracts coming off the books pretty soon here on defense as well. So I'm looking at Chiarot, Hall, and Gustafsson are all UFAs after this season. Like, you're going to need to replace guys. You go in and you do that. Like, you get ahead of it rather than do it all at once. This team can be very, very close. The point Evan brought up at the start of all this, which is that the Montreal is going out and improving the way they did, some of it through their own accord, some of it through draft luck and lottery luck. That is what it is. But what Brad just mentioned of you have all these prospects, and if it turns out that most of them turn out to be great players, which a lot of them are on track to be, then you have a lot of the formula right there. So, we're constructing all this. And again, it's a lot of ifs. The moment you add in all those probabilities, the overall chance of this happening is low. But if you can get most of the way there, then you're putting this team in a good position where Steve Yzerman doesn't have to do a ton to push you over the hump. And then you get the snowball of success rolling.
The trade deadline this year will be interesting because will teams who perceive themselves as out of the playoff race start the ball early, well advanced to the trade deadline?
You'd think so.
I think teams who are out of it will disassemble very quickly because this is probably the first draft in a long time that we're talking about I'll say potential generational type player. So I would imagine you're going to see a lot of you'll have haves and have-nots this year. And can the Red Wings take advantage of some of these teams who are mailing it in early to really solidify being at the bottom of the league?
The Pittsburgh Penguins may be the first team in NHL history with a points percentage that starts with 0 after the decimal place.
The thing is, though, they're the only true sellers right now. Every other team in the league fancies themselves getting better this season. I am curious how quickly some of these teams pull the plug, given that it's a McKenna year. Now, obviously, Bedard and Celebrini were great, but they didn't have the hype McKenna does. And the quiet part that we probably shouldn't say out loud is, well, again, there's 31 teams that fancy themselves getting better. The Red Wings are one of them. They might not get better. And they might have to make some interesting decisions earlier in the season. Now, I don't think they would pull the plug in like a November like some of these teams will. The Red Wings probably will get into January, February, unless it goes really off the rails. But unlike last year, if on the positive side of here's the worst case scenario, Red Wings actually have some guys who would probably have some value at this deadline if they decided to abandon ship.
Yeah, but the only way they would truly be in a situation where that would make sense is if they had injuries to justify
Which is possible.
Because the floor is way too high on this team to be a McKenna team.
And again, this is me being paranoid, and I'll knock on wood here. The Red Wings have been unsustainably healthy for the last few years. Like, that just doesn't happen. Like, there's going to be a year. Seider has played every game in his career. Lucas Raymond has missed very few games. Like, Patrick Kane hasn't missed that many games despite coming off that injury and his age. Like, luck is going to run out eventually, hopefully not this year. Again, knock on wood.
Hopefully you do it while you have a little bit more depth.
Yeah. But if it goes off the rails and you want to take positives from the season, you can't tell me a lot of contenders that half retained would not value Ben Chiarot very highly. You can't tell me a lot of contenders at retention would not value Andrew Copp very highly.
Mm-hmm.
So in the doom and gloom of it all, there's still going to be silver linings this season. And then plus, the whole McKenna light at the end of the tunnel, possibly. But for all the reasons we laid out, I don't see that as likely. Because unless there's a devastating injury to one of the Red Wings' big three, I just think they've improved all over the lineup that regression doesn't seem likely. It's just a matter of, is the progression going to be enough? Because Ottawa's not getting worse. Montreal's not getting worse. And I know the memes, the voodoo of it all. One of these years, theoretically, Buffalo's going to put it together.
Yeah, sure, man.
They're like the anti-Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
Yeah, today's round, I'm both going to be good off the tee and on the greens. Sure, man.
Exactly. But you look at Buffalo on paper, and they're that team that should always be a lot better than they are. But the whole Buffalo thing, it's not going to be a cakewalk for Detroit. Like, they have to find a way to still outpace the Bruins, still outpace the Sabres, and then figure out a way to pass Montreal or Ottawa, all while staving off the Metro teams, which the Metro doesn't look that strong. So I'm actually less worried about that than I am Montreal and Ottawa. But still, the thing is, though, Montreal, I think, is the interesting one because they're still very young, but they have the most room for growth. Ottawa, I think, is what they are at this point. There's not a lot of growth opportunities for that team. If it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen there. I don't think the Red Wings are there yet, but I could see it being very possible.
That's the case for the Red Wings potentially being close to a playoff team or how things would go as they're constructed right now. We've said this a lot of times this podcast, but as we wrap up this kind of conversation, Steve Yzerman is still looking. We could be coming back for a midweek emergency episode in the summer.
You'll never hear from me again after today.
Oh, don't I know it?
Trade for Karlsson, and Marc-Andre Fleury comes out of retirement to back up John Gibson.
Evan will be driving 300 to my house.
I will be hosting the emergency podcast.
We go to his house. He has an immaculate studio set up. He's never let us
I will
see.
facilitate the conversation.
First ever hot tub episode?
It might just be.
Dogs out. Dogs out. But it could be in the summer. It could be in December. It could be trade deadline. Steve Yzerman, like this formula that we talked about, that's the one he's put together. He knows, but he also knows and has been working on this for a long time. There's room for external addition, and there's a need for external addition if you want to go off of anything more than if. The ifs are all possible. The Red Wings could shock people. I don't think they're low on the list of, potential surprise playoff teams. But right now they'd be on the list of surprise playoff teams and not playoff teams. So that's that conversation. God knows we're going to keep having that. Let's move on to some NHL notes. There's not a lot right now, but I think the big one that's surprising is the decentralized NHL draft this year was a travesty. It was one of the worst entertainment products that we all had the privilege of watching in the past calendar year. It was, we joked that if it's that long, you guys are going to have to bring your pillows over next year, and we're just going to do a drunk live stream for the NHL draft stream. Everyone was talking about it like, yep, everyone hated it so much, it's guaranteed that the NHL is going to vote to get rid of it. It's a one and done. It's the NHL GMs who voted, and they don't care that it took a long time. And so they voted, majority vote, to keep it decentralized.
Did the GMs vote, or were the owners like, this is how you're voting?
Because it's so expensive to fly.
So expensive.
Oh, yeah. We it's hard for the billionaires, Evan.
Yes, please.
As you're very aware.
Please think of the shareholders, guys.
How did you, the GM, create shareholder value today? I want you to think about that before you go in and vote on this.
Exactly.
I have some thoughts. Part of this is the NHL had a half-baked plan to do this, and the GMs and the owners only want to do this because it was more convenient, financially and timing-wise. I understand it, but I think it's stupid for two reasons. One, I don't cry for millionaires or billionaires. And two, the NHL schedule is their own doing. They run this late because they're scared of the NFL in September and October baseball. You are expanding your season. You are going to 84 games. You are going in the wrong direction. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. You are going to be playing hockey at the same time other sports are going. I understand the NFL eats everyone's lunch. I get it, but at some point you have to buck up and start to fight fire with fire, or at least go into the fray. You're going to be a bit banged up. But speaking of banged up, teams, both players and management, and how the fans are banged up. We're getting into July doing major hockey things. The season needs to be done by at worst, the first week of June. I mean the Cup awarded. The draft should be June 14th and free agency should be June 21st. Done. Because it is insane that you're running into July. All of that aside, so they're like, oh, things are too close together, so flying everyone out there and then back to home base for free agency, the draft and free agency are too close together. They don't have to be.
What the hell are 98% of the teams doing up to the Stanley Cup Finals?
Hanging out.
Oh, the Buffalo Sabres are...
Well, they can't tamper, Evan.
They're worried about the draft because they're in the Stanley Cup Finals. Buffalo's had nothing but free time since January 1.
of
Figure it out.
2019.
Yeah.
There,
Pre-COVID.
there is no league and group of people, specifically the NHL general managers, that use the excuse, oh, but it's hard. More than anybody. You're getting paid how many millions of dollars to be an NHL GM and having to hop on a flight and open your laptop in
you have
two
to take a
different time
private
zones?
jet to the NHL entry draft.
I don't think they're flying. I don't think they're flying the staff out on PJs often. I'll give you that much.
Still, I can't accept that. First of all, there's no league that hates their fans more than the NHL. We already know this. Everything is in service of the owners. Fans be damned. The phrase, you got to spend money to make money, means nothing to these people. It's, well, no, we're going to keep the money and then we're going to make money too. Won't make as much money, but it's not even that I hate the decentralized draft. Like, it was bad last year, but I genuinely think that was just a production issue.
Yeah.
You can fix the production to make this entertaining.
Yeah.
The NFL does a decentralized draft and it's awesome. It's wicked. They do a party atmosphere. The way
homework is literally given to you.
Yeah. The NHL just needs to copy the NFL's draft. Full stop. Don't do anything different. Everybody will love it. I just hate the NHL's mentality of what the fans want doesn't matter. Like, there's no commissioner in professional sports that has more disdain for what the fans have to say than Gary Bettman. Fans could vote 99% to 1% to put in a play-in round. He won't do it. The fans overwhelmingly...
I think play-in round is on the horizon, but...
God, I hope not.
Oh, the way he's talking...
Hey, that's off-season content. Do not steal it.
Okay.
The way he's talking, it ain't going to happen. But you can go down the list. Fans overwhelmingly want to change the playoff format. He won't do it. Fans overwhelmingly wanted to re-centralize the draft. He won't do it. There's always reasons you can justify for why it makes sense. Listen, I understand wanting to keep as much of the season away from playoff baseball in the NFL as possible. I get it. I genuinely understand that reasoning. I understand the logistics and the cost savings of a decentralized draft. I understand all of it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Your core fans are who you should be pandering to. Because guess what? If you make your core fans even happier, they're going to be your best advertisers because they're going to tell their friends how awesome X, Y, and Z are. Sorry, you're never going to steal football fans away from football on a Sunday. Why try to? Like, you are... Anyways, this is a long-winded way to say I hate the attitude the league takes towards its fans. I don't mind a decentralized draft. Just do it right. Like, that's all I'm asking at this point. And I kind of want to keep the Wizard of Oz box because it was so bad it was good.
No, it wasn't. It was just bad.
No, I know.
We're going to have holograms next year.
Oh, Evan,
what I wouldn't pay
how
out
long
of my
ago
own
was the
pocket.
Tupac hologram concert? That feels like
70 years ago.
We thought that would change everything.
I need you to understand. There's nothing I want more in this life now to watch the Red Wings first round pick walking across the stage to a hologram of Steve Yzerman.
Yes.
I hate you for making me say this, but in Gary Bettman's defense, I think he wants a centralized draft, but he also, more than that, loves pinning things on the teams. It's the NHL versus the teams in some regards that way, so I get it. And I agree he should be forcing
why do they want it? That's the thing he can fix.
Because they aren't putting the media or the entertainment product in mind, and Gary Bettman should be driving that. And I also agree with both of you. It was a production issue. And I think Gary Bettman, whether intentional or not, is responsible for how god-awful that was when it did not need to be remotely that bad. It wasn't even close to being good. Move it along. The kid goes up there, he gets drafted, shakes hand with a couple people on stage, one picture. Do not do the awkward interview. Take him off stage, do the media interview right then. The moment the kid steps a foot off stage, the clock starts for the next team. Boom, go. The whole, it should be
Teams
5
have
minutes
already
a pick.
talked to these kids. Like, we don't need to see the conversations. Like you said, quick conversation with Sportsnet or whoever's the NHL network, whoever. Clock's already running again. Next pick, boom, like just tighten it up.
Yeah, you got the green room. Throw all the kids in the green room. When you have some dead air you need to fill, go interview one of them back there.
Have the home cam for the kid who's watching from a living room.
And even the audience change the way, like the one thing that makes the NFL draft magical is how they have those, I don't know what to call them, team pits.
Oh God, could you imagine standing for 17 hours in the first round of the NHL draft? People would die.
But I don't even, one, people in the NFL do it no problem. But also, I think what they do is it kind of cycles a bit because the team that's picking, their fans are always right up front. So I think there's like a designated, like, okay, Cleveland's coming up, move all their fans to the front. So they're front and center when this kid comes up. They put all the cameras on them. It's great. And then it creates a more lively atmosphere. Not only was the production of the decentralized way too long, it was dead.
There was a lady eating her lunch on a cafeteria tray.
Oh, yeah. I heard that the concessions and the merch setup there was like, and Bush League would be generous.
Didn't they just invite a kid up on stage to do LA's pick?
Yeah, which I love that though.
Because by that point they had jumped the shark.
Yeah, everybody else had left. He was the only guy left in the building. They're like, come on up, buddy.
We can't find Bill Daly. He's gone.
He's a bit young to be a draft eligible. Oh my, you're a fan? Holy crap.
Yeah, so again, create a better atmosphere, create a better production, and I'm fine with it. Just my advice, watch the NFL draft and copy it to a T.
The NFL is like that kid in your, I'll speak from experience, in your math undergrad where the one kid wears a Batman cape to class.
Oh yeah, I had that too.
That guy's a genius. And he hands you his homework and he's like, write exactly down what I wrote. You will get 100%. And that would be like me just being like, taking a quick glance and being like, yeah, it's great. And just like throwing it away.
Exactly that. Although my kid he wore a house coat or like a bathrobe with a hoodie part of it that was like a dog's head kind of thing all 4 years. But I don't think he was actually like a savant or like incredibly good at school. I think he was just weird.
I remember
once gave me his homework.
It was always great because when Batman told me that the exam he thought was
Evan lore.
I would ask him like, oh, what did you think of the exam? He'd be like, oh yeah, it was kind of hard. I'd be like, well, may as well close my book. I don't need to study anymore. This is going to be a survival test.
Yeah. At that point, you just close your eyes and whatever you spit on the page would be probably better. Anyways, okay. We are going to take a quick break here and then jump into the final segment on this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast back after this.
We're going to overtime.
Overtime is brought to you by our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/wingedwheelpodcast. Again, the bonus episodes, the off-season bonus episodes, and you get bloopers and thoughts with Evan, and it's a great time. The Discord, the giveaway, all that and lots more. Let's take some questions from our patrons here as we wrap up the show. So we'll start with Jeremy Dahl. Says, do you think Seider and Raymond still have another level? They signed very fair and team-friendly deals and are still so young. Is there a world where they can turn into superstars that Detroit needs? And do you think Kasper or ASP will pass them in importance as well?
I think Seider's got a little bit of room to grow still. I think Raymond's probably got a bit more runway just because of the forward versus defense complications of it all. If you told me one day Lucas Raymond's putting up 90 to 95 points on the regular, I wouldn't be surprised. If you told me Mo Seider was putting up 60 to 70 points on the regular, I'd be pretty surprised. So I would say, yes, there's room to grow. I'll give Raymond a bit more width on that. I don't see a world where ASP becomes more important than Seider just because Seider plays the most important role a defenseman can play on a hockey team, and that will never be ASP's role, even if he's running the first power play. The Kasper versus Raymond debate could be interesting. I don't think Kasper's ever going to be better than Raymond, but you could maybe one day make the argument, is a 2C more important than a first-line winger? Maybe.
Who was more important to Florida's Cup run this year, Bennett or
Tkachuk?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you could see that argument one day.
Yeah, I still think there's a decent step for both. I think for the actual like league-wide definition of a superstar, Raymond has a better chance than Seider. It's not impossible for either. I think defensemen have a harder time breaking that barrier. You almost need to be like a overproducing offensive defenseman, and Seider's has way better defense than a lot of the highest end defensemen in this league. But it's just kind of the way things go. The Danny Bancan says, in the Do Rebuilds work article you mentioned, I was surprised to see that we have the 5th longest rebuild if consecutive playoff appearances is the finish line. Do you think when Kenny said that rebuilds take 10 plus years, it was because he knew he was in the middle of wasting that first 3? The Ken Holland, Tyler Wright era of drafting, I don't know that they had or have the awareness of just how much that tanked things. Like, I think Ken Holland had a lot of truth in what he was saying, but it doesn't need to be that way. If Detroit just drafted average those 3 years,
it's
average.
10 years if you just do the same thing repeatedly, and it's like, we're just going to draft, and that's it. You see the teams who made shrewd moves or took massive swings, like Montreal traded 2 first-round picks. That can certainly truncate the timeline.
Like, just it cannot be said enough how much the Holland-Wright combo screwed teams at draft time. Whether it's the Red Wings, whether it's the Oilers, God knows we're going to see something come to fruition again now here for the Kings. Holland doesn't know how to sign UFA contracts. Like, most of the time, they're bad. Some of them, he has some bangers in there, sure, some greatest hits recently, but most of the time, awful. But the draft is like low-key the worst part of what him and Tyler Wright did together. Motown Seider says, do you think great players should take the free agency snubs? Marner, Nikolai not picking up the phone, Trouba, drama last year. Players communicating that they don't want to come to Detroit as a way to galvanize the locker room. Kind of a, they don't want to come, we'll show them on the ice. I mean, any locker room bulletin board material that you can get, absolutely.
I'd certainly be saying that message to some of the young key players of this team. I'd be telling that, oh, Larkin, you want guys to come here? Well, let's look at the offseason. Nobody wants to come here.
Yeah.
You're part of that. You're part of the solution. You're part of the problem. You're part of the solution.
Proving players wrong and becoming a winning organization, they're never going to hold a grudge and say, oh, man, boy, I don't want to join the Florida Panthers now. They just piss me off so much. It's like, no, a lot of players in this league, even with full unbreakable contracts, would love to go play for the Panthers now. Kasper, the friendly post, says, if Soderblom is on the first line all year getting similar minutes to Raymond in terms of time on ice a game without the power play, do you think he can reach 45 plus points in his sophomore season?
Let me phrase it this way. If Soderblom plays 82 games with Larkin and Raymond and doesn't get 45 points on the first line, I'm going to be more than a little upset.
We're going to have some confusing conversations. Sarah Palin's favorite elbow says, Ryan mentioned the blood-brain barrier in a past episode, talked about the vagus nerve in the last episode. Med school in a past life? Oh, if this isn't a joke.
Hold on, was that your mom that asked?
Yeah, I was going to say, Mom, is that you? Are you a Patreon supporter?
Sure.
No, my mother wishes. My partner is studying the vagus nerve for her PhD right now, and she lit up when I told her you mentioned it. +1 new Winged Wheel podcast listener. I knew my undergrad would come in handy.
Finally.
The first time ever.
We're still waiting for mine.
Yeah, well, now that we know you got all the answers, I was like, why is this guy never contributing any analytics? He has the math degree.
You know, when you just sort of study and you write the exam, and then as soon as you close that exam, the knowledge is gone?
Yeah, it's the NHL draft every year.
Yes. Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah.
It's that. That's a more recent. Yes.
Brad, Nick Tarnasky, right or left shot?
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. That's so
hold on.
funny.
I don't think I've ever actually watched a highlight of him.
And if you did, he didn't have a stick in his hand.
He's a righty in one way, for sure.
Yeah.
On the ice, I feel like he was a lefty, but I actually don't have any confidence in that answer.
Okay, so he does meet you. Your goal total was 150 games played, and he did play 245.
Wow, good for him.
And unfortunately, you are still correct.
Yeah.
He was a lefty. I don't know that I want to give that one to you, but by our rules.
No, I was
like a
right.
guess,
I was
but-
right. And the important one, he's a righty.
Oh, he's a right. Yeah,
Is he a righty?
They
he
got to put
shoots left, but he bangs right.
they gotta put a plaque where he pigeon
Someone
tossed
did
that
put
guy.
something in the ground.
There's like a
front of
scorecard.
Yeah. They're going to triple their membership prices next year.
On every Twitter post and Reddit post about this whole incident, The first comment's always just bang, period.
Yeah. You know how many people across the world were now exposed to like good old Canadian boy hockey players who otherwise would have never. The people who watch the Jacksonville Jaguars and no one else, like they don't even know hockey exists. They're like, they see this caricature of a person and then they read into it at all. They're like, yeah, that's what every Canadian enforcer or like hockey enforcer is like. Like there's a whole nation full of guys like that.
The number of non-hockey people who asked me about this week, it was just at an all-time high.
Well, it's your two worlds colliding, golf and violence.
Yes.
Wow, sad statement. The NHL gained more new fans from Nick Tarnasky, a cell phone video of Nick Tarnasky beating up a drunkard, than they did from the NHL draft.
Yes. They actually lost fans from the draft.
Oh my God,
Some
yeah.
died there.
And I'm Kevin says, remember that time Patrick Eaves fell during the shootout? Current Wings player most likely to do the same. Oh, man. Well, if Tyler Bertuzzi was still on the team, I would say Bert's always good to have snow on his pants. I don't know.
Justin Hall's still on the team.
Why would he be in a shootout?
Can you imagine? Like, we have no data on this guy.
Merrick
What are his
Malik.
tendencies? Dump
Merrick
the puck
Malik
in.
scored one of the most memorable shootout goals of all time, and he had 0 goals going into that shootout because they got to the 16th round.
And that is his legacy. If you're in the 16th round, if you're like a plug on an NHL team, you're playing like sub 13 minutes a night, and you are 16 rounds deep, try what Merrick Malik did. I don't care if you've never practiced it. I don't care if you've never tried
anything cool.
Try it, because everyone will know Merrick Malik for the rest of their lives thinking about hockey because of the Statue of Liberty goal.
It doesn't have to be a tweener, just something cool. If you miss, nobody's going to remember it. You're in the 16th round of a shootout. But
It's up to the fans in the arena, if it's a Red Wings home game, to start chanting Justin Hall's name.
And then when he
that
gets
deep.
up there, you start chanting a deke that you want to do. Datsuk, Datsuk.
Can you imagine he just hits that shit? Like,
I'm going to be so mad. I'd be like, you saved that move. You made us all believe that you were this Neanderthal, and then all of a sudden you just pull one of the greatest moves of all time.
Imagine
Make a
not even
breakout
Datsuk,
pass, but-
imagine just like the flick over the pad that Datsuk only really did once, like successfully. Imagine he does that one.
I would die.
Like,
I'd be so mad.
if you ever seen like Pros vs. Joes, the worst NHLer you know is unreal at hockey. Unreal, would smoke you. I promise you he'd smoke you. They all have something in their pocket. Try it.
It's why I love the Scallenge so much, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Scalabrini.
Yeah.
I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me, and then he just dusts every... Oh,
So good.
every sport needs someone to do that. It could be Justin Hall. Justin Hall against your average beer leaguer looks like Connor McDavid.
All right, folks, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Wing Wheel Podcast. Again, we are starting our off-season schedule now, so we'll still be with you once a week. If there's an emergency episode or content to cover, we'll be back with you for a regular episode. We'll still be doing that. Patreon supporters not only get the bonus episode after the main episode, you also get bonus off-season episodes throughout the summer. Usually midweek, we'll kind of keep you posted as to how that goes. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. Thank you to the sponsors of the Wing Wheel Podcast. Cannot thank you enough. And to all of our Patreon supporters, you are the heart and soul of the show. Patreon.com/WingWheel Podcast if you want to help us out. And if you want to go above and beyond, but Patreon's not for you, that's totally okay. Just wherever you're getting this podcast, hit subscribe, leave a thumbs up, a like, share the podcast with a friend, leave a rating, a review, the stars, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get the show. It is a huge help to us. To all of our name level supporters on Patreon, we cannot thank you enough. Arjun Shankar, Akefer, THL Champ, Samuel Soderholm, Icon, Glenn Brabham, below average ball hockey goalie, Rain Dano, Sea Lion, Matthew M. Rice, Adam Rose, Adam Zuiza, Admiral Matt S., the Cheese Bag Navy, Alex Toger, Anna Sleeman, Asher Killian, Bare Necessities, Beer League Legend, Best James Bond, Bingo Bango, Butts Carlton, Carl Lieutenant Anuski, CB55, Chris Black, Citizen High Five, Clip Clop Nene, Connor Scovey, Craig Kibble, Denny's Gamer Girl, Derek Enstam, DJ Denton, Eric Hill, every hockey fan in Oklahoma, brand new name level supporter, Give Blood Fight, Probert, Grand Rapids Girly, Griffin God Creatives, Hockeytown Matt, Hassam Al-Qassem, Jay Gollum, Jacob Turner, Jeff Pridemore, John Ingalls, Jonathan Miller, Kalen Wood, Mark Hernandez, Marty, Matt McKay, Mr. Kuzi. Now I have to learn how to click on a Macintosh. Podgy713, RA, Roy Donk, Sam Bankson, Slim Smitty Cards, Stephen Ortlieb. That's what I appreciate about you. Wallman's Elite Dancing D. William, Wings Fan of Chicago, Iserplan Stan, Aaron Hudson, General Andy Bohan of the Cheesebag Army, AA Ron, Olmoder No Hands, and Stanislavski, Antonio Gracias, Bellingham Massive Balls, Bex, Big Cheese, C.E. Hayes, Chris Felinski, Commander Ben Barron of the Cheeseback Space Force, Connor Layton and Corey Prida, Darren Fick, Drop the Puck, Dylan Larkin, Trade Sacrifice, Eric Nance, Evan Beckner, Evans, Brown, Pomeranian, Frank Stanley, Gene Sullivan, Grepsky, Griffey Boy, Jacob Marsh, James Pridemore, Johnny Page, Jeremiah Dobo, Jim, JM Rhapsody, Josh Yelton, Kevin McCracken, Quaz, Linda Hull, Lonnie Zone, Lucas Raymond, Matt Keeler, Mike Asher, Mitch Minier, Monica Lewinsky, Ophelia, As Good As It Gets, Peter Swanson, Rosie Posey, Roy Mudbutt, Steven, that other guy, the Hodag, the Hat 123, Trent Thorough, our good friend, Wings Fan in St. Louis, Scott, Wolverine on his bed with a framed photo of Pew Suter and your second favorite patron. Thank you all so very much. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to visit wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you'll find links to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find ways to support the show, like Patreon, official podcast merchandise, and more. And don't forget to follow us on X at Winged Wheel Pod, at Ryan Hanna, WWP, at Brad Crisco, and at Hockeytown Evan, as well as Winged Wheel Podcast on Instagram.